It felt surreal for
Really?
sure. Like
Yeah.
you're just walking around and like all these A-list stars are like 2 feet from you, and it's just casually there. You're looking down in the seats, and it's like Timothée Chalamet and Ariana Grande, and then now here's Oprah, now here's Morgan Freeman, now here's Miley Cyrus, and you're just like, what is happening right now? Where am I? It felt surreal for sure.
Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. Today we're excited to have Amy Miller on the show. She is a longtime voice of Dallas radio, champion of local artists. She was the former program director at KXT and is one of the current weekend hosts of the shows and the creator of the local show and also an Oak Cliff resident, an Elmwood resident. As
Amy,
we just learned a few minutes
thanks for being
ago.
on the show.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you guys so much. I love this neighborhood. This is so cool what you're doing.
Oh, we love
awesome.
it over here too. We were just talking about all the great little parts
Places
of Elmwood.
we can jump around to, and
It's good.
It's a good spot.
It's a great place to be. So, Amy, tell us how you got on this journey of becoming a host on KXT. How did you get interested in radio, and where's your journey begin?
Yeah, I mean, as far as radio goes, my journey begins when I was probably a teenager in the San Francisco Bay Area, just
nice.
listening
Cool.
to radio with my friends and calling in to win concert tickets.
Nice.
And then fast forward to college, I started doing college radio, interning at stations in San Francisco, and then that eventually turned into a full-time job across the country in Virginia. If you're familiar with the musician Bruce Hornsby, do you know that name?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Okay, he was starting up a radio station in his hometown, in very small town in Virginia, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay, yeah.
Moved across the country to become the music director there. Eventually became the program director. And that's kind of how like my whole radio journey started, and then went on a few detours between then and now. But yeah, I played in a band for several years on the East Coast as a musician, was really kind of trying to make it in an indie rock band. And when I realized it was time to get a consistent paycheck again, I started applying for jobs around the country, radio jobs, and landed one at KXT, and I moved here in 2014.
2014?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
That's
10
awesome.
years now, almost 11 years now, which is wild.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's amazing. So, okay, you said interning, going to these experiences. Like, what does it look like being in radio? Because I feel like radio, it's like curation, it's connecting with the music scene. There's so much to it. I think a lot of people are like, all right, well, I'll stream music, I'll do this. But like, there's a lot to a radio station and a brand and a curation of stuff. Can you tell us kind of what that looks like and kind of, how's that being as a career in this? You know?
I mean, I've worked at several radio stations, and it really kind of depends on the station.
Totally.
You know, commercial radio versus public radio is very different. KXT is a public radio station,
That's right.
so we're funded by, you know, majority of our funding comes from listeners.
Yep. And some KERA or
KERA, it's connected.
Yeah,
So it's
that's right.
KXT, KERA, and then KERA TV, the PBS station.
Awesome.
Nice, okay.
Great organization. And so, it really depends on the station. It depends on like the market. The bigger markets sometimes have a lot more resources than the smaller
Totally.
markets. So smaller
Yeah.
markets, you're doing like 10 different jobs. You know, I feel so lucky that I landed the job in Dallas, because not only is it a great organization, but it's a, you know, bigger market with a little more resources. But yeah, my job at KXT, like in the programming department, was overseeing all the programming for the station, whether that's the music, the air staff, the, you know, what we call, I don't know, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I could go. I'm like, how deep do I want to go?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like a all-encompassing programming job for the radio station. And I forget what the first part of that question was.
Oh, I think it's like the idea of like being in radio or a career in radio, and like so much is changing with streaming and all these other things. Like it seems like there's a deep love for music in a community that's been associated with the station. And how does that play out? Yeah.
Listen to the radio every morning.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
one of those
sure.
things that is nostalgic, or at least like once it's part of your life.
It's like
hard
analog,
to
kind of like
let that go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and the cool thing about working in public radio versus commercial radio, if you listen to a lot of commercial radio stations, a lot of the times it's kind of programmed by like one or two people, even across the country.
Wow.
If they're owned by like the big radio companies,
Yeah.
you have one person making the playlist for like 100 different stations in the country.
That's
Public radio is
fascinating.
very locally focused,
Yes,
especially because we're
yes.
publicly funded. So we get to create things like the local show. We go out in the community more, and it's just like way more community
You
focused.
get to be a champion of like the community because of kind of the way you're set up. That's awesome.
So you brought up the local show.
Yeah.
Tell us about why you started it and sort of what the purpose of it was.
Yeah, so I don't even remember what year I started the local show. Probably, I want to say like 2017 maybe.
Okay.
And it was just a way to put like a bigger focus on the artists here in our music community in North Texas.
Awesome.
It's now called the Homegrown Music Show. It's on its third host now.
Cool.
Her name is Waffles. She's great.
Nice.
She's also an amazing photographer,
cool.
music photographer, live music photographer. But yeah, I started to just kind of put a highlight on the music scene here. And, somebody who's always lived on a coast, when I got the job in Texas, I was kind of thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to move to Texas. And all my friends and family were like, you're going to last a year or two there.
Right.
I just had these stereotypes about it. And then when
Sure.
I moved here, I was so pleasantly surprised by how many music venues there were, how many great bands there were. I just really wanted to like highlight that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we, because of some involvement with like the neighborhood farm and then the brewery down at the other end of the building, we've started to kind of interact with more local music. In a way, and it's been so fun getting to meet some of these people.
Man, even within
in
like a
Oak Cliff.
mile radius of here,
I
I
know.
can think of three.
Yeah, Dorian
really
Marsh,
talented.
or these people that are coming
Kelvin
in.
Thomas, all these guys. They've got a really good sound.
Brody Price too.
Brody,
He like puts together a little music festival at the farm, and it's just like there's stuff happening here just
There's
within,
a
like you said,
rich music scene.
like just a mile of like where we're at. So I can only imagine coming in and starting to realize like, oh, there's depth to this in different areas and Deep Elm and Oak Cliff or wherever that you're kind of like exploring and discovering.
Yeah.
Was there anything you learned during that time where you're like kind of putting away these preconceived notions, or like getting those challenge where you're like, what is this scene like? Or
I mean, I moved here and I didn't know anyone probably within a 1,500 mile radius.
That's wild.
so
it's a big moment.
I moved here and I found myself down in Deep Ellum probably 2 or 3 nights a week, just seeing live shows, trying to find my people and my community. And I think it was just kind of walking around there, and it was kind of before it saw the huge revival that it has now. So I feel like I came here at a good point in 2014 where it was like, there's stuff happening down there. There's a lot of shows, but it wasn't crazy and packed out, and you could find parking on a Friday or Saturday night. I just realized like how big the music scene is here. It's not just like good, but it's like big. There's so many music venues, so many bands, so many people wanting to be involved in the community. Yeah, it's great.
This episode and every episode of the Hidden City podcast is brought to you by Waxspace. Waxspace is known as a co-working space in the neighborhood, but did you know that we also are open to rent to the public for private events? Every weekend, we're hosting baby showers, wedding showers, birthday parties, and anniversary celebrations. If you're interested in hosting your private event at Waxspace, you can reach out to our events manager, Savannah, and that email address is hey@thewaxspace.com. That's HEY@thewaxspace.com to get more information and a custom quote for your event here at Waxspace.
Well, so through the show, you were kind of shining a light on local artists, one of which was Abraham Alexander. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us that story? Because I think probably most of our listeners are familiar with him now.
Yeah. So, gosh, probably back in 2016 or 2017, I remember this moment so vividly. I was sitting in my office late at night at KXT, and I was just hunting around for good local bands.
Yeah.
And I come across this video of him playing what's still my favorite song of his. It's called Heart of Gold. And it was for a local video series called Cinderblock,
Yeah.
which is a live video of him playing. And I emailed him and I was like, this song is amazing. Do you have any recordings you can send me? I'd love to play your music on the air. And he hit me back right away and was like, I don't have any studio recordings. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I think he said he was working on something. And so then like we kept in touch. Maybe like a month or two later, he sent me a song that he had. I started playing it, and then he's amazing, obviously. And I just started playing him on the air, started booking him for some like KXT shows. And then we just kind of befriended each other. Like he would have like demos and play them for me. And and then in 2019, I started managing him on a part-time basis. And then that eventually turned into a full-time job like 3-4 years ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Okay. And stuff is obviously like taken off with him big time.
I feel like he's just playing much bigger shows. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to see him at the Majestic downtown, open for I think it was Iron and Wine, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Incredible.
Yeah.
But it's been like strapping yourself to a rocket though.
Yeah, it's like, well, and he headlined the Majestic, I think in like a year and a half ago maybe, and that was like a really special moment. And then he got nominated for an Oscar this year, which was wild. It's been like
what's it like looking back on that moment? You were like, you don't even have studio recording. Like,
I mean, it's crazy. Like every once in a while, I'll bring that email out and just be like, wow, like that's where it all started. Yeah. Like who knows? Like, who knows what would have happened? Like where my life would be if I didn't do that.
Right.
It's
well, and I think
crazy.
there's something pretty cool about like you just being steeped in the music culture and radio and like looking at artists and even being like, I'm going to start focusing on local artists and having that taste and being able to be like, oh, that's amazing. What I just heard there. There's something there that's like, I want to showcase. And then that turns into this other part too. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So it's been your full-time job, you said, for 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? I mean,
it's different every day, honestly. Sure. Like, especially when like things were starting to ramp up, it was, I was on the road with him a lot. Kind of acting as like tour manager and driving us around on tour and, doing everything from that to like helping with like big picture stuff and even smaller picture stuff and that. You're kind of like an all encompassing like sidekick, to the artist.
That's crazy.
That's super cool. So obviously when you heard Abraham Alexander's stuff, you're like, people need to hear this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do you know when there's an artist that you're like, oh, this needs to be on the radio? Like I've discovered somebody or I've heard something here that like, I got to share this. What is that like? Yeah. I
think as far as being on the radio, I mean, it really just comes down to the recording. Is it like do I think it's a good song or not?
Yeah, sure.
As far as like, there's so many good songs and there's so many good artists. As far as like finding an artist that you think can like really go the distance, like that's so hard. And like, when I did find that video of Abraham playing, it was like, I don't know what it was. It was like a combination of everything. It was like great song, but I could also just tell like he writes songs that are so personal, but they also kind of have this like universal theme that people can connect to.
For sure.
And I could just tell when he performs too, like he's like, there are moments where he's like inside the song, and like when an artist can translate that and performs like that, I think those are the moments that really connect with listeners and fans. And I think that's why fans oftentimes gravitate towards an artist. It's not necessarily the song. It's because they feel this like connection with them, and this way of relating with them. And it's just really special when you find someone like that.
To say it, like, because when you said it that way, like, a person that comes to mind for myself is like David Ramirez. I always appreciated.
He's great.
Like the way I felt in some of this and like that relation to the artist, it felt very raw or real or like, I think there is a connection that happens with a listener with those types of artists or those ways of doing it.
It's funny, like it's come up 3 times in the last week in our conversations, Doug, but this idea that like you in the particular is where you find that universal appeal, this like in someone's particular experience, and like how that is so essential for creating good art or music or film or whatever it is. That's just like a really interesting insight.
Yeah.
You have to tell your story and your particulars and like dive into those things. Don't be afraid of that, because that's how people are ultimately going to connect with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially when it goes to seeing an artist live. Like, I don't know, that's where you really connect with the artist, you know, and when you see any artist that just like kind of exudes that energy and you can tell that they're feeling it, it just makes it so much more special.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's right. It has been a point of conversation, is like these moments that are like almost vulnerable or just real to you, and it's like it has a universal appeal, or it can sometimes, and connect with people. Okay, so you've been in the Dallas music scene for a decade at least, and have you seen like a shift occur, or has it kind of been like, hey, this has really been consistent? How would you describe some of it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Like, I feel it's
no wrong answers. I think we're just talking, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I hate to say this, but like the last couple years I feel like I've been on the road a lot and kind of not as fully immersed in the scene as I was, 7-8 years ago. But for me, it's always felt pretty consistent. Like, nice. Really great bands and really great bands and musicians supporting each other, which is so important. Yeah. And also not only like just the clubs that are traditional music clubs, but like alternative spaces doing like pop-up shows, and there's always something to see. There's always a space with music in it, whether it's a venue or like a shop or like, a record store or whatever. Yes. There's stuff everywhere, and sometimes you have to dig a little bit for it, but it's all over the place, and I love that.
No, that's really cool.
No, that's great. I mean, I've heard that with other things too, where it's like there is a collaborative nature to some of that stuff, where it's like people want the best for each other, and I see that with the music scene, at least in Oak Cliff.
I see it. It's part of the spirit of Oak Cliff for sure, and that sort of we're gonna collaborate and bring each other up. I think that's a cool part of just what we're in over here. When you think about the industry, because like you said, you've been on the road a lot. You've been wearing a lot of hats. What sort of things on a larger scale in the music industry are changing and affecting artists like Abraham Alexander or others that you're managing or help? Because I imagine the landscape of music is just, with the rise of different technologies and streaming and all these things, like constantly influencing, I would think, the way these artists are making their music or thinking about their music. But what have you seen? I'm curious.
I hear a lot of like really great music and music that are called demos, but it sounds amazing. People just like recording at home, and I mean, that's been happening for a while, but I just feel like it's becoming easier for musicians to do that.
To record at home.
Or just to like learn the technology themselves. Yeah. I think it's becoming a little easier.
A little bit easier on their own.
Interesting. Huh. And it just seems like we're kind of in an era now where there's just multiple platforms popping up for multiple things, like managing social media and managing there's just like so much software coming out, and they're all competing and trying to be the leader in the pack.
Right.
And it's it's just a lot. Whereas before there was like maybe one or two platforms to send out emails to your fans, or one or two to manage your social media or whatever. And now it's just like, it just seems like there's so much of it.
Yeah, I could see how that'd be super overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like overwhelming. It's like, and maybe you're really big on TikTok, but not on Instagram. Or like maybe you have this area that's like, like there's different audiences that can be built in different spots. I mean, I even think about podcasts where it's like we're on a video podcast. Like it's not just an audio thing. It's like that's a video podcast so that it can be clipped and shared and digested in different areas. And so
Yeah, and there's so many more platforms for artists like that are big. So it's like I feel like if another social media platform comes out, oh my God, I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah,
But every time one kind of comes out, and then you're like, oh no, is this going to become as big as Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook?
Yeah.
And
that was literally my feeling when Threads came out. I was like, do we have another one to like we got to post?
And
to?
everybody feels like they have to because
Right.
it's such a competitive atmosphere now.
Yeah.
Like the fact that everybody is doing podcasts, you know,
right,
and like your podcast is great, and there's so many that are like,
so many.
There's a million.
like not everybody needs a podcast, but
we
there's
think
so
our
many.
podcast is
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Amy.
No, it's fantastic.
but it's so true. It's definitely podcasting became the thing. I was like, all right, now everybody's gonna get a podcast, and there are these kind of trends, I think, and it's part of like trying to keep up maybe with the culture and the like way that we communicate online. But man, like just even to create music is a lot, but then to like figure out how to put it and place it and like it seems like it could get
there's a challenge there. It's not just like, hey, all this is taken care of and just make beautiful, awesome music.
Right.
It's like when you're starting up,
you're building your
brand. Like you have to
there's
you have to do so much with it. No, I mean, I think it's a crazy time. Is there any other things too that you're like, besides just all these different things that are coming out and you feeling like you have to be publishing and pushing all this into different spots? Is there anything else that in this current climate that you're like, right, seeing this and managing Abraham or working with this, we're trying to be thinking about this in the future? Or is it everything from local shows, or is it kind of like, hey, we're going to stay consistent, we're going to do what we do?
I think that you have to not just stay consistent, but you have to be willing to learn new technologies and platforms. And also, I feel lucky that I've been building like my network of people in the industry on a certain side of the industry now for a while, and just constantly tapping into them as resources and asking other managers what they've used that they found helpful. And I'm on a couple different text chains with other managers, and it's so useful because there are so many tools out there, and some of them are great and some of them aren't. Some of them are new and trying to become the leader of the pack, and if somebody has an experience with them, they'll quickly just say no, don't use them. But I feel like it's important to try and stay ahead of the curve as much as you can, or at least try and keep up.
No, that's awesome.
When you think about local artists, there's so many. It seems like there's so many that are trying to make it and trying to kind of find their voice, make a name for themselves. What is one way that you've seen over the years that you think generally people can do to support them or find them? Because obviously listening to the local show, great example, like, hey, you're going to learn some new things about an artist that you probably don't know about. What are some other ways that you found are good for people that might want to just have their finger on the pulse of local music? What should they do?
Go to local shows. To support artists, go to local shows. Buy their merch at the merch table. That's probably the biggest thing.
Buy
that
merch,
you can do.
yeah.
Buy merch. And tell your friends about them, and like now with, post them on social media if you like them. Post them and tag them and
get the word out. Get the word out.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place to go see a local show?
Oh, gosh.
Or a couple. Yeah.
Gosh, there are so many great venues in Dallas. I mean, right here in Oak Cliff, love the Kessler Theater. Great sound, great room. Spinster Records always has such great free shows, all ages, which I think is like super important. I mean, clubs down in Deep Ellum, Club Dada always books bands that I love. There's so many great venues. There's actually I feel like there's not. I can't think of any venues in Dallas that aren't
that you're
good
like,
rooms.
You don't want to go.
Yeah,
that's true. I do love.
So I know there's some amazing ones. The Kessler's. I mean, we've had people on from the Kessler, and it's just like it's an awesome venue. It's a great venue. So like when you're thinking about Dallas sound, like I know like Charlie Crockett's like someone who's come out of this area and that is putting more and more time into it. Like Leon obviously had moments. Like are there other sounds or people and artists that are kind of like giving structure to that North Texas, Dallas kind of music that you would kind of, or is it just so diverse?
I think it's so diverse.
I know.
It's like, and when I first moved here, I thought that it was so like, and there's a lot of this, don't get me wrong, alt country, country rock sound. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
But like,
but then you have Erykah Badu.
But then, and that's what, when
I
I first found Abraham, it was like, I was kind of hunting around for stuff that wasn't that.
Yeah.
And I came across him and I was, who's this?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of that. And I don't think that there is like one Dallas sound.
Yeah.
There's great indie rock bands here. There's great soul and hip hop music and, there's just a lot.
Yeah, I think we had a guest on the show, Alex from Elmwood Recording.
Oh, I know Alex, yeah.
You know Alex, of course,
he's
yeah.
great.
And just like all the bands that have come through there. And some of the sounds that have been happening in Oak Cliff too, that you're just like, this is remarkable. Everything from kind of like the explosions in the sky kind of mindset and some of those vibes, vodka and stuff.
The amount of like big names that have passed through Elmwood recording studio that you just would
St.
never
Vincent.
St. Vincent.
I think her Grammy Award-winning album was recorded there.
I'm just like,
Crazy.
okay.
Yeah.
Who knew?
So casual.
Yeah. That's kind of Dallas, like, that's kind of Oak Cliff music scene. I feel like sometimes you're like, wow, this talent is here. Or like, this group is here. And they're just like, they're consistent. They're going.
Yeah.
They're making stuff happen.
It is rooted like in the history of Oak Cliff too.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of historical music figures that...
Stevie Ray,
Sure.
B.W. Stevenson. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of
T-Bone Walker.
Yeah. There's some amazing sound that's come from this area. I could see how you were like, oh, this is refreshing to find this type of music, or because there is so much this kind of alt country or maybe like rock you were saying.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how people would describe it right now, or is it
describe like the genre?
Dallas? Yeah. Is that kind
know.
of the... I know it's a hard one to pin down. Yeah.
How people think of us outside of Dallas now, because I feel like I'm a Dallasite
in
a way,
for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Today's show is brought to you by Oak Cliff Brewing Co. Oak Cliff Brewing Co. has been with us since the very beginning. It's a brewery here in the heart of Oak Cliff, and it's got amazing programming for this summer. What's some of the stuff going on?
Yeah, they've got some fun weekly programming. Tuesday night trivia is a hit over there. Every single Tuesday, you can go play trivia. Either pub trivia, sometimes there's a theme. They also have Loteria and Bingo night, so that's every Thursday night.
Yeah, so they've got some amazing beers this summer. They just released a Mango Rodeo. It's a Mango Saison. We've got some other Imperial Stouts and a crispy cold IPA that's coming out too, and so a lot of really fun beers. I think the craziest one's the cherry limeade.
They have been teasing out the cherry limeade Paletta.
Yeah,
so that is based on the Paletta cart series that they've got going on down there. So lots of good beers. They're a great place to pick up a 6-pack. And, when you've got a fun weekend planned or holiday or something, great place to go visit.
And host events. They told us too, just the amount of inquiries they're getting and stuff. They want to host more events. And so there's a tap room open. Production area is good to go. And if people have events they want to host, semi-private, private, whatever, reach out.
So it's oakcliffbrewing.com or oakcliffbeer.com, and you can learn more about Oak Cliff Brewing Co. Stop by any day of the week. They're open 7 days a week. Thanks, Oak Cliff Brewing Co.
Amy, this has been awesome. I think one of the things I wanted to ask too is like, what, as you're in this music world, you've been in this music world for so long, what are some of your personal tastes? Like who are artists, and you were also a musician for a while too, but who are some of the artists that you've drawn inspiration from, and that you've just, grown to love?
I mean, gosh, there's so many. And when people ask me that, because the library in my head, I feel like is so big, my mind kind of goes blank. I don't know. I listen to so many different types of music.
Yeah.
I grew up playing classical music. I actually got a degree in classical piano in college.
Nice.
And
That's
then
cool.
after that, like when I was on the East Coast in Philly, I worked in the jazz world for a while as a jazz publicist
Cool.
for a PR firm, and then I played in indie rock bands,
yeah,
and
yeah.
my
That is
tastes
like
are
a
kind of
lot of
all over
range, yeah.
my tastes are literally all over the place.
Yeah.
I think like music I'm super passionate about, like indie rock has always been kind of my like bread and butter. You know,
Nice.
I grew up
Yeah.
listening to rock
Yeah.
music, but there's so many soul artists that I just love, and you know, I love that genre of music, and folk artists and a lot of artists from the 60s and 70s, you know.
Give us some names. I know
Okay.
Pixies
I'm a
was
big
one of them. I know.
Pixies, love the Pixies.
Yeah.
You know, we were just talking about St. Vincent. I've
Yeah.
really grown to admire her over the years.
Cool.
You know, artists from the 60s and 70s, Joni Mitchell. I've always loved
Yeah,
her
yeah,
songwriting
yeah.
and her voice. Oh, gosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I feel like the soul.
Do you have a favorite artist that you go back to time and time again?
Oh, Grant. That's a good question. I mean, what I'm on right now, John Baptiste. I'm listening to that.
yeah,
a
he's
ton.
amazing.
How about you? What's coming to your mind? I've been on the Charlie Crockett mic thing for a while. I think.
I'm so basic. Like Tyler Childers is
Nice,
like a favorite
nice.
for a lot of years now.
Thelonious Monk. That's one I go back to a lot.
Thelonious
Yeah.
Monk.
Yeah,
that's a good
the
one.
Monk. He's
Yeah.
great. What else? Yeah, I don't know. It just is all over.
Yeah.
Kind of. I relate to that where you're like, man, I can feel like into the jazz mode for a while, or I can go, Coltrane, or you can go.
Yeah,
into
I'll go
other-
through phases for sure.
Yeah.
And like I'll listen to John. He's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
John Coltrane,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like A Love Supreme, one of my all-time,
Yes.
probably top
Oh.
3 albums of all time.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I kind of
Yeah.
go through phases with the genres too.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's just like listening to instrumental stuff or.
Do you ever dip back into classical, or is it kind of?
I do occasionally, like
Yeah.
I'll, you know, if I'm in the mood for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually, like if
You
I'm
go to the
cooking late at
symphony,
night or
like,
something.
Yeah.
You what?
Yeah.
I go to the symphony.
He
Yeah.
goes
Oh,
to
yeah,
Every once in a
nice.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, there's nothing better than classical music too for just like reading or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
working. It's never gets old.
Whenever
It's
you want to feel
always-
fancy.
Yeah, or if you just want to
Yeah.
feel a little fancy. That's
There's so much good music. That's awesome. Well, yeah, I feel like the whole like personal taste kind of plays into your role too, of like searching and looking for those voices like you were at your time at the radio. What are some things that managing artists like Abraham, are you bringing on other artists right now, or is it more of just like, this is just so much of my work that I have to like stay really focused on this?
Yeah, I'm pretty focused on him right now,
Yeah.
and I'm not super anxious at the moment to like bring
Yeah.
on other artists. I
Yeah,
mean, he's,
yeah.
you know, he's working on his next album, and we've had like such a big year this year already, and just kind of focusing on continuing to grow him, and yeah.
What does that big year look like?
What does that
big year look like? Some of the things.
Well,
in
he
the
got
year?
nominated for an
Yeah,
Oscar,
that's
so we went to
wild.
the Oscars,
Yeah.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
And,
tell
like,
us about
wild.
that experience. What was it like being there?
It felt surreal for
Really?
sure. Like you're
Yeah.
just walking around and like all these A-list stars are like 2 feet from you,
just
and it's
casually
just
there.
casually there. You're looking down in the seats, and it's like Timothée Chalamet and Ariana Grande,
Yeah.
and then they don't really announce the most of the presenters,
Okay.
and so you don't know who's going to be
Yeah.
there. But it was
Yeah.
just like sitting in the audience, and it's like a pretty smaller room than you think when you
think,
see
yeah.
it on
Yeah, I was
TV. But
wondering.
it was just like star after star. I was like, now here's Oprah. Now here's Morgan Freeman. Now here's Miley Cyrus. And you're just like, what is happening right now? Where am I? It felt surreal for sure.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, it was.
We had
It was
another
blast.
Oak Cliff, another guy keeps coming up on shows. Clint Bentley, the
Love-
filmmaker.
yeah, I know
he
Clint.
was
He was
there.
the film
for
producer
Sing
for
Sing. Yeah,
the
yeah.
movie that Abraham was nominated for
Oh,
song
was
for.
it? Oh,
yeah,
no way.
So
Okay,
yeah,
so
so it
there's
was,
a connection
Sing Sing
there.
was
Awesome.
nominated in 3 categories. Abraham wrote a song with Adrian
Cool.
Casada, who's in the Black Pumas,
Yep.
and it was nominated for Best Song.
Amazing.
From
my
an original
kid's
film.
favorite record at home right now.
Yeah.
Is Black
Honestly,
Pumas.
it's so
He
good.
like they just
Again,
every
a Kessel
night.
show too.
I know.
That's how we first heard
I
about it.
know. Yeah. They're nonstop. They put that record on like every single night.
Oh,
I'm
that's
just like,
awesome. They're
It's
so good.
awesome. They're great, but I'm like I need a different record every once in a while, kids. Like
Yeah.
okay, that's awesome. So yeah, I knew he was Oak Cliff and he was there too, so that's kind of fun.
Who?
Clint.
Oh yeah. He is an Oak Cliffer. Yeah.
yeah.
He's amazing, and yeah, everybody that worked on that film was great. But yeah, we started off the year with that. And then, he's been touring. We just were on the road a week or two ago. And yeah, staying busy with him for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What is life on the road like on this last tour? Where did you guys end up, and what is that?
He was on a support tour, so he was opening up for another band, and it was just, it's not as exciting as you think. It's driving around in a car for 5 or 6 hours a day, getting to the show, sound checking, and setting up merch and playing the show and breaking down and getting back to the hotel at midnight, and then next morning you wake up and you do it again.
Yep. Just yeah. That's awesome.
I feel like too, because you said you had your own band out on the East Coast. I imagine that's in some ways helped as you manage other artists. Like you can relate, empathize with some of the fun and not so fun parts of being on the road and what it's like to be an artist.
Yeah, and but I was in bands, but I never got to the scale that we wanted it to, and never to the scale that obviously Abraham is at now. But yeah, I think it helps. Most of the people, it's crazy. Most of the people you meet that are working full time in the music industry, I would say a majority of them were musicians at some point.
They're in bands.
Yeah. It's just they want to stay connected with it, and that's kind of what happened with me.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, Amy, what other kind of things are in the future for you this year? I know it's probably a lot with Abraham, but is there anything that people should know about or be connected with? And things for this year that's coming up.
I don't know. It's just such an unpredictable job that I have, you know? So it's stuff pops up and you're not expecting it. And, I'm off the road a little more than I used to. So I'm kind of want to focus on getting more back ingrained into the music community here and more into the community here in Oak Cliff and
come to the tap room and listen to some shows. Yeah. We had who was out at the beer garden
Dorian
this last
Marsh
weekend?
Was out there.
Is that the Oak Cliff Brewery? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, the beer garden.
Yeah, and
Dorian was
Dorian's
amazing.
A hilarious example. He lives literally across the street. And he saw that we were doing a live music show one night, and he just came over and was like, I play music. Can I come over here sometime? We were like, yeah. And he's got an amazing voice.
I don't think I know him. I'll have to look him up.
Yeah,
he's great.
I feel like I know the name, but I don't know if I've ever heard his music.
Yeah, he's great. Pretty awesome. But
come to the beer garden.
I would love to. Let me know when the next show is. I'll come out for sure. But just kind of staying in the community or getting back into it and trying to stay creative myself, which I kind of got disconnected from that for a while. But just finding different outlets for that.
Awesome.
When can people tune in and hear you on the weekend shows?
So I'm on every weekend on KXT, Saturday and Sunday, 2 to 7 p.m.
Okay.
And then I fill in for people as needed.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Maybe thanks for being on the show.
Thank you guys so much. This is fun.
Great
awesome.
chat.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend. And thanks so much for tuning in.